Another week, another 4-for-4 record, bringing my record on the year to a clean 27-7. Week 9 resulted in lost jobs, underdog wins, weather delays, and calls to trade Nathan Rourke. This week, we have a matchup between the top 2 teams in the league, the potential for a 100-plus point game, and a very special guest to talk through this week's games and picks. This week, we are recording in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan on our day before for the Women's National Tackle Football Tournament. And I am joined by none other than previous podcast guest and teammate, Shaylee Foord. Having both spent meaningful time in the CFL, we have a lot to say about the games this week.
Do we ever?
First up, we have the Stampeders visiting the Argos. This is a game of 2 offensive powerhouses and 2 defenses that are still very much struggling to find themselves this season. The Argos also return home to BMO Field for the first time this year, and with an all-you-can-eat offer, can they fill the stands, or has the hiatus from BMO Field caused a complete disconnect with the fan base? What are your thoughts on the game this week?
Like you said, a couple of offensive powerhouses meeting up. Loved last week's game with Calgary. The storyline of Shaylee Foord and his former quarterback coach, Jarius Jackson, facing off obviously was very exciting to me. And as to the BMO Field advantage, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I've never been to BMO Field when I felt like their crowd was doing a lot for them. So for me, whether being back at home or not is a factor. That's kind of a non-starter for me. I gotta go with Calgary this week. I think the momentum can take them places.
Yeah, I definitely don't think there is such thing as a BMO Field advantage. I don't think there has been in a while. For the sake of the team and for the league, I do hope that fans come out, but totally. I don't think an all-you-can-eat $40 ticket is going to be enough to fill those stands. I think Calgary has finally found who they are. VA has been on fire. I will not talk about any more about his success because we are going to not wish anything into the universe other than success for him. And I just think Calgary has everything it takes to make this happen. So when it comes to this game, I have to go with Calgary, and there's really no other. Actually, I'm going to add one more thing in there. Even with Chad Kelly coming back, I mean, I don't think that's why they lost their last game.
Agreed.
It's not a factor. There's just too much going on there to put that directly on him. And he's just such a hot and cold quarterback. And he had a little bit of hot at the beginning of the season. And I think they're still going to put some work in and make some things happen. And both teams are going to score. But at the end of the day, I think the Stampeders are just a much more sound team.
Agreed.
Next up, we have the Red Blacks visiting the Rough Riders. Although it's highly unlikely for a team in the CFL to go winless on the season, the Red Blacks do seem committed to that journey. They have a rough schedule to finish out the season, but I could see them taking one against the Bombers next week or one of their games against Hamilton towards the end of the season. So absolute best case scenario for them, I think, is 3-15. They've lost the room and they've lost the plot. I don't think this team or this organization has what it takes to come back. The worst part is you've dumped so much money into one guy, Ryan Dinwiddie, that you can't afford to fire him or justify bringing someone in to take over one of his 3 positions. This is another serious issue with multi-position coaches. They aren't just getting paid as a single position coach. They're getting paid for each of those positions. And if you need to make a move to remove them from the organization, you're on the hook for a large chunk of cash, and then you have to replace multiple positions. So I think we're going to see just a lot of moving pieces around him going places, but unfortunately, I don't think Ryan Dinwiddie is going to go anytime soon. How are you feeling about the Red Blacks?
I think you're right about that. And, while I don't think they've been having the greatest defensive performances, I don't think firing your DC will save you from the fact that you got into the red zone how many times last week and couldn't make a play there. After the last 3 years with the Elks, my heart is green and gold till I die. But as a born and raised Rough Rider fan, pretty excited for them to go 0-8 in enemy territory here.
I heavily agree with that. And I think, we touched on the Red Blacks, but I think when it comes to the Rough Riders, we all see and we're hearing about all the injury concerns and everything at that organization right now. But this team has the ability to roll with the punches, which a lot of other teams in this league don't have. So I think regardless of who they put on the field, they're there, they're prepped, they're ready to win. They're coming off a hot win, a redemption win against the Elks. So I just think they have what it takes to keep those Red Blacks from getting that first win.
And when we're talking home field advantages, Mosaic Stadium is one where there's a pretty clear one. And for a team that's already struggling, that's a tough game to win.
That's an energy you don't want to walk into. And when you're already an emotional roller coaster, the added intensity of playing at Mosaic that's too much. And then one more thing we have with the Red Blacks is Gino Lewis getting cut. I'm not saying this is what happened. This is pure speculation. However, the situation is something that happens in the league. The OC calls the plays. They can have a direct impact on the success of a receiver on their team. If the OC doesn't want someone to have the ball, they might not get the ball. Also, who you have at quarterback is not known for pushing the ball down the field, which is where Gino shines. So I think there's a lot more to this. It's not just a star receiver getting cut. It's a star receiver who also hasn't had the opportunity or been given the opportunity to shine as well.
I don't have much to say on what did or didn't happen there, but what I do hope is that Gino manages to get work this season, because love him or hate him, he's entertaining to watch. And when he's on, Gino Lewis is a fun football player.
Agreed. And I think it's going to be a while until we see him on the field. I think everyone has a good receiver set in place, and he's obviously a guy that's going to demand some cash. And I don't think teams at this point are open to or desperate enough to throw down that extra cash, nor is anyone really in a great need. If anyone, it's the Red Blacks, and they just let him go. A lot of people are talking about Calgary in replacement of Bagleton, but as much as Bagleton's a great receiver and a great player, Calgary's doing just fine without him. He'll be a welcome added addition, but I don't think you're in a position where even if Bagleton can't come back for a while, that it makes sense to bring Gino on.
Yeah, I don't think he's taking anyone's job anytime soon.
To kick off Saturday football, the Elks head to Montreal for a rematch of Montreal's only loss of the season. Teams seem to have found a remedy for Justin Rankin, as his rushing totals have tanked over the last couple weeks. It seems the BC Lions found a secret to success against Rankin in their first win this year, and that blueprint was heavily utilized by the Rough Riders to keep Rankin well under 50 rushing yards. However, the last time these two teams played towards the beginning of the season, Rankin went off for 179 rushing yards. So maybe he holds the key to success against this Montreal defense. Do you think Rankin will return to his running ways, or do you think they're still going to have a little bit of work to do against this Montreal defense?
I think it's going to be a tough one for sure, but I do think we're going to see the return of Rank. You know, Montreal, when we played there last year, absolutely electric game. I just think the environment there and the way people feel there is something special. I'm sure, obviously, the Owls feel that too. But I've also seen what the Edmonton Elks can do coming off a loss, and I've seen how they can shift their attitude over the week and, you know, come back and practice harder and play stronger. Also, something I love about the matchup this week is 2 weeks ago, we saw a big finish from Vincent Blanchard, the kicker, and he's got a big old fan base in Montreal. And there's nothing I love more than a crowd of people yelling the kicker's name. So I hope Vinny gets the love he deserves over there. And I think this is the toughest matchup of the week, but I got to go with the green and gold.
Yeah, this is a matchup that I am still in my brain right now, going back and forth. I think, like you said, the Elks have this great ability right now to bounce back from a loss. I think Montreal also has that ability, but obviously they're coming off a win. It's definitely the matchup. They're very clearly the best two teams in the league right now by a long shot. They're also two of the more healthier teams in the league right now. So they're playing with their guys. It's not like Saskatchewan, who has a little bit of a revolving door, although still a great team. There's a lot of missing pieces. Montreal, inherently a tough place, the most annoying place to play in other than Winnipeg. It's loud, it's obnoxious, but I like the little fact about the kicker. Like, if he has a fan base there, and I think with how close this game likely is, I think having a kicker who isn't going to be in necessarily as hostile territory might give them a little bit of an edge. But I think I still have to go with Montreal. We finish up the week with a cat fight at BC Place where the Hamilton Tiger Cats come into town to take on the BC Lions. This is two teams who have been living the last few weeks with struggling and inconsistent offenses, both missing their starting quarterbacks. Nathan's injury and Caden Salter's single-game success has spurred the ridiculous narrative of how BC should trade Nate. I'm all for success of Caden Salter, and I think he has a lot of potential in this league from the little bit we've seen from him. But it was one game. It takes a hell of a lot more to prove your worth and ability than one game against a horrendous Winnipeg defense. Furthermore, I'm of the belief that any new quarterback will have a semi-successful first few games, especially when they're going from American football to Canadian football. There is no film on you. No one knows how you're going to be utilized. No one knows your tendencies. That is a ticket to short-term success. It's how things progress after there is film on you, when coaches have been able to scout your tendencies and weaknesses, that shows your ability to be successful in this league. How are you feeling about the call to trade Nate?
I love the CFL. I love the CFL's fan base, but man, sometimes I hate CFL fans. We're fickle. And I think people change alliances and change opinions really, really quickly. Of course, I don't think anyone should be trading Nathan Rourke. I think whoever would be on the opposite end of that would be the luckiest team in the CFL. I'm in agreement with you. I think every new quarterback you're going to see some success. And I think if that success continues, then it puts teams in a bit of a pickle when your starter comes back from injury. But I think it's way, way, way too soon to even be whispering those ideas out loud.
And I know a big part of that narrative is people saying that he's made of glass and he's always injured. And yes, has Nate went through a lot of injuries? Absolutely. But a lot of the time, that's the price you have to pay when you have a quarterback who plays at 100% and takes risks. And also, you have the offensive line coming into it. Are those quarterbacks getting more contact than they should have because the offensive line is struggling? In that case, then it's not the quarterback's fault if they get injured all of the time. It's a bit of a give and a take, but we can't just say just because someone's getting injured all the time that they are no longer a valuable player. I think there's a point in time where that conversation comes up, like years and years and years into it. But with Nate's injuries, it's been just things that happen, and there's really nothing that you can do to control that.
And I would say injury rates of starting quarterbacks over the last few seasons in general have been, like Kolaros has been out, Trevor Harris has been out, Chad Kelly's been out, Bo's out right now. And like so many of those things, like you said, like just happen. You can't really put it one way or another, but I don't think it's a standout for me. I think his performance outweighs his injury. What is the
injury
word
rate?
I'm looking for? Injury
rate of injury?
I think his performance outweighs his rate of injury any day of the week.
Yeah, I think people are looking for something to put the lack of success of the Lions right now on. And it's really easy to pin it on Nate when at the end of the day, there's so many more problems in that organization right now and on that team, which is why they aren't where people want them to be. It does sound like Nate will be back. I read quickly before we hopped on here that he's taking first reps at practice today. So they did say it was a week's thing, not a month thing. So it sounds like he will be back this week. How close he is to full health or not, if it makes sense for him to play this week or at least start, I think is TBD. Might change. I mean, if you're playing against Hamilton, who's inherently struggling, do we see Nate maybe start, get a little bit of a lead, Salter goes in? Do we see Salter start, Nate goes in if he needs to? I think that might be a little bit of play. Ultimately, this game, I'm going to have to go with the BC Lions. Their defense, although Hamilton's defense has been very strong, I do think the BC Lions have gotten it together the last few games. I think we got a lot of good moving pieces with Horvath. They had some success last game, and I think they're going to ride that success into another win.
And for me, even a middling defense against some very clear and obvious quarterback problems in Hamilton can make some plays there. Last week, we saw quite the struggle on the offense. And frankly, if I'm a coach in Hamilton, I don't even know who I'd be playing as quarterback right now. Yeah, tough matchup. Love to see some feline on feline violence, but I gotta go with BC on this one.
Yeah, definitely on the same page with that one. I think that's probably the easiest pick of the week. That's our picks for week 10. How are you feeling about the games? What are you looking forward to? Who do you think is going to come out on top of the league with Montreal and the Elks taking on each other this week?
Tanya, I've got one more pick of the week.
Yes.
Big matchup tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Between
that's true.
Senior Women's Team Alberta and Senior Women's Team Quebec in the Senior Women's National Championship week. Senior Women's
It's a week. Yeah.
Championship week. Happening for the first time, mind you, in 10 years. Tanya was on Team Alberta the last time it ran.
Mm-hmm.
We both tried out in 2020 for a tournament that ultimately got canceled. So this is a matchup that's been a long time coming. And I don't know about you, but I got Team Alberta all the way on this one.
I'm going Team Alberta Blue as well. And then obviously we have the second game of the day, which will be SAS taking on Team Atlantic, which I got to go with SAS. As much as I want to win our game against Quebec and go to the championships and not play against Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan's going to take that game against Atlantic.
Scary